Hello, BookTube. It's Sunday, I guess it's early evening now, actually. I think so. It's just gone 6 o'clock, yeah. So it's time for another shelf tour. This is shelf number, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is number 6. Get that correct. And it's mostly ships and I think railways and some steam engine type stuff. Again, as I mentioned, there's not really any order to this stuff at the moment. The first one here it's Nondescript because it's an older book without dust jacket. It's from 1915, and it's English Railways, Their Development and Their Relation to the State by Edward Cleveland Stevens. An MA from Christ Church, Oxford. It's George Routledge and Sons Limited, 1915, as I say, and it's got a nice fold-out map as a frontispiece, which is always nice. I love fold-outs. They don't always survive, sadly. But yeah, this is exactly what it says. And it's actually I think this is for it. It's just a little thing saying a catalog enclosed. So I thought it might have been just a review copy, but not quite. But yeah, it's just it's the development in relation to the states in the UK, and I haven't really read. This is another, it's sort of similar to other ones that we've seen, but it's Studies in British Transport History, 1870 to 1970. Derek H. Aldcroft. And it's David and Charles publication again. It's compilation, but it goes right back to the 1870s. And it doesn't have the what year is this? I'll get to that in a second. This is 1974. It's got a stamp here saying it's Shropshire County Library, and a number on it, but it doesn't have any other stamps or anything else to do with libraries, and it's just a collection of essays, articles, and so forth. Henry Booth, inventor, partner in the rocket, father of railway management, and it's by Henry Booth. Arthur H. Stockwell Limited, from Devon, 1980. It's a reprint, obviously, and it's got some nice drawings throughout. The Salvagers, Harvey Bedham. The Salvagers. Nice sort of wraparound cover. This is Essex County Newspapers Limited, 1980. And contents is Book 1, The Salvagers Century. Book 2, Memoirs of a Scroper's Son. And Book 3, Who, What, When, and Where. It's saying here, I get some enough light to read it. Before the introduction of lifeboats, the saving of life at sea, and the salvaging of wrecked ships and their cargoes were in the hands of the hardy bred breed of adventurers, seafarers, and salvagers. And this is their story. It's got a nice coastal little map as Endpapers. Another older antiquarian book. It's pretty rough. It's the law relating to canals. This one I really like. But as you can see, it has seen better days. But it's literally exactly what it is. It's law for canals. And we've got another fold-out frontispiece with canals on there of sort of just England, basically, not Scotland. And this is 1885 by Stevens and Sons. I'll read the full title here. The law relating to canals, containing a treatise of navigable rivers and canals, and including all legislation to the close of the last session of Parliament, together with their procedure and practice in private bill legislation, by Robert Webster. So, yeah, it's just all the laws. And as I say, it's a bit rough, it's a bit delicate, but it's quite unique. And here's a nice one. Again, it fits in with this, but it's a little broader. It's a history of British shipping. It's the David and Charles reprint series. It's by A.W. Kirkcaldy. It's a reprint with an introductory note by Professor Ralph Davies. Originally published in 1914, and this edition is 1970. And there's not much in the way of illustration in it, if I remember right. Yeah, there's some nice appendices and charts in the back and so forth, all fold-outs. But yeah, it's quite substantial. The Express Train and Other Railway Studies by Jack Simmons. It is David St. John Thomas, publisher and imprint of Thomas and Lacar. This is 1994, and it's possibly the most authoritative writer, or Jack Simmons is, that is, on railway history and our generation. Jack Simmons combines originality of perception with enormous original research. Over the years, he has portrayed railways, their machines and men, their carriages, and the people who traveled in them in many new lights. And yeah, it's basically from the beginning up until, it doesn't go all the way, yeah, it's just up to prior to First World War. And there's a lot of nice illustrations throughout. The Great Canal. The story of one of the greatest engineering feats of all time, the Great Manchester Ship Canal, by Roderick Grant. It's, again, one of those that has the same back panel as the front. It's not a super detailed one. It's a general history, but there's some nice sepia tone photographs throughout, and it's exactly what it is. It is a history of the Manchester Shipping Canal. and it's by Gordon. Well, it's Robert Grant, but published by Gordon and Cremonzi, 1978. Here we go. This is quite a hefty book. Plowing by Steam, John Henning and Colin Tyler. One of my sort of traction engine type things. A bit of sunning on discoloration on the spine, and it's got a bunch of inserts, clippings, and so forth from magazines, newspapers, and yeah, there's quite a few in here. And there's other ones like from medieval plowing. Somebody's actually tipped some of this in. It's like Granger, what's it called now? Grangerization or whatever, where people took other bits of other books and expanded, and there's lots of this in here. It's published in 1970 by Modell and Alfred Publications, and it's this magnificent book by expert and enthusiast authors Colin Tyler and John Henning may well become the definitive work on the subject. Well, that's a big statement, and there's lots of illustrations. Well, this is a little different, but it sort of goes along with that one. It's The Farmer's Tools, 1500 to 1900 by G.E. Fusel. I've got another book that's just sort of tools, hand tools and stuff, but I didn't quite put it in with this section for some reason. The History of British Farm Implements, Tools and Machinery Before the Tractor Came. And it's Andrew Melrose, London, 1952. And it's exactly what it is, and it's got all sorts of photographs of actual equipment and drawings as well. So it's quite substantial. This here, I'll pop this in now. I mentioned it earlier, and I've finally been able to sort of dig it out. I have shown this book before because it is a fabulous book. It's London Coffee Houses, a reference book of coffee houses of the 17th, 18th, and 19th century by Bryant Lillywhite. It is a beautiful, large book, and it lists every single coffee house, and it's got a history, sort of a brief history, and other references, who owned it, when it disappeared, references to like if it was in Pepys' diary and so forth. It is just fabulous, and there are over 2,000 listed in this book, and it's to George Allen and Unwin, and 1963. And this is really, really nice condition that I got. I did pay pretty hefty for it, but it was a book that once I knew it existed, I had to have it. It's one of those that you can't do without. And when I'm reading about coffee houses, it's indispensable. Or reading Pepys' diary, it's indispensable. So we continue on. The rise of the English shipping industry in the 17th and 18th centuries. Ralph Davis. Another David and Charles book. Let's see, 1962, and this is the second impression, 1972. And as here is a new impression of the standard work, first published in 1962. It fills the gap in the economic history of early modern England by explaining the role of one of the most important and fast-growing industries. and provides for those who are interested in ships and shipping a realistic account of the facts of the shipping business and its commercial background in early days. And it's got lots of charts that are always find those quite fascinating. And in here, I don't think there's any in the as appendices. There's interesting appendices, but not the charts so much. Just make sure this doesn't fall down, which it wants to. The Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway by A.J. Rothersley. Again, it's David and Charles, and this is new editions and reprints. I think this is a reprint, or is this one of the series? David and Charles. Originally 1970, second edition 1981. No, it's not a reprint one. It's just one of their multi-volume sort of books on specific railways, and this one happens to be the Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway. English Merchant Shipping, 1460 to 1540 by Dorothy Burwash. It is a David and Charles reprint. Let's see, 1947, originally 1947, University of Toronto Press, and exactly what it says, between 1460 and 1540, the development of merchant shipping was of vital importance to the growth of England as a European power. In this work, Miss Burwash offers a complete history of the English merchant the merchant marine in the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance period. West Coast steamers. So one of these, and there's quite a few books that I have on steamers. This is Christian Leslie Dyce Duckworth, Graham Easton Langmuir, 1953 by T. Stevenson and Sons, published. 1953. And again, it's got all these charts and appendices in the back with all the details of each steamer. The length, the breadth, the tonnage, the engines, who owned it, who built it, who was the engineer, how long did it take passengers, how many passengers it could take, just everything, and when it was decommissioned. And you can see there's that much in the back, all these details. This is part of the Industrial Histories of Britain, another interesting David Charles series. This is Britain's Railways and Industrial History by Harold Pollins. And 1971, David and Charles, as I say. This book tackles the history of Britain's railway from an entirely new approach. The prime concern here is with railways collectively as a major industry, and not with the traditional interest of mechanical history, railway building, and individual companies. Four main themes are examined: sources and patterns of investment, operating practices, management and organization, and labor relations. And that's 1971. It's kind of running out of space for me to be able to reach these. Shipwrecks of North Wales by Ivor Wynne Jones. Again, David and Charles. That's exactly what it says. It's Shipwrecks of North Wales, 1973. Interesting frontispiece. Oh. Here we go. It's a little better. Liverpool. It's series The Ports of the British Isles series by David and Charles. There's so many series that they've done that are interesting. They're, as I just repeat, they're not super scholarly or academic works. They're general and very interesting. This is Liverpool and the Mersey, the development of a port, 1700 to 1970, by Francis E. Hyde. And this was published, again, David and Charles, 1971, and it's exactly what it is. It's a history of the Liverpool and Merseyside, or Mersey, and the development of a port. Oh, I'm really running out of options here. Let me move things if I can. Move them up so I can then that might work better. Let's try that. Okay, this one is just very plainly titled British Shipping. It's the English Institution series. Nothing very big or special about this one. It's just there's lots of nice photographs in it. And it's the British are largely dependent on their ships. And seafaring has among them a remarkable tradition. That's what it's about, basically. It's a second edition, 1959, Cambridge University Press, originally published in 1939. But as I say, there's all sorts of pictures. It's just a general history. Another older book, Railway Adventures and Anecdotes by R. Pike. It's edited by Richard Pike. Extending over more than 50 years, and this is 1888. And exactly what it is, it's just anecdotes, letters, and so forth of railways, which is quite interesting. I've perused it and read bits and pieces, some of the letters or entries, articles, so forth. And this is Bristol, another port. Bristol, A Gateway of Empire by C.M. McGuinness. Again, David and Charles. This is one of their reprints, I think. No, it may not be, actually. It's 1968, originally published. Oh, it is. It was originally placed in 1939 by J.W. Aerosmith Limited, and this is 1968, so it is one of their reprints. And it's exactly, it's just a history of Bristol as a port. It's another older one. This is an act to consolidate and extend powers and provisions of the acts relating to the navigation from the Trent to the Mersey. 1831. Printed by George Eyre and Andrew Strahan. And exactly what it is, it's just it's the Act. It's the Act of Parliament for canals. And here's the Severn Tunnel. Its construction and difficulties 1872 to 1887 by Thomas A. Walker. It's a Kingsmead reprint this time, not David and Charles. Originally published in 1891, and this is the facsimile edition, including 4 portraits, 1969. And it's exactly what it says. There's foldouts in it as well. And here's the tunnel itself, or at least the permanent. Oh, that's the pump station. And there's other. And there's all sorts of. Oop. That's actually come out. Just lay it back in there. And yeah, there's many. Oh, there's a lot of them are just loosely in there, so I'm not sure how that works. But yeah, it's one that I haven't read. But yeah, and it's interesting. Yeah, here's another little. It's a little rough, but it was a very cheap one. It's the Peep Show of the Port of London. A.J. Linney. It's Sampson, Lowe, Marsden and Company, 1929. I'm not so sure if that's a real photograph, because it looks like it could be a composite. But yeah, it's just regarding the Port of London. So again, this goes partially with my London collection as well as transport. It's another one of these forgotten railways. South Wales. I think I had, was it North Wales that I had? Maybe North and Mid Wales, I think. But yeah, it's another David and Charles book, and it's just railways that are no longer in existence. This was published in 1979, and just lots of photographs. And the last one here for today is The Birth of the Steamboat, a very general book. It's a nice little one. It's Charles Griffith and Company. But it's by H. Philip Spratt. Charles Griffin and Company Limited, 1958, and it's just a very brief history with photographs, mostly just listing the people involved with the birth of steam. That's it for shelf 6. There are 2 more, I think. Yeah, two and a bit, maybe more, to go. So I'll be back on Wednesday with that. Take care, BookTube. Thank you.